It cost the dairy industry $1.6 billion, and it didn't sell a single extra gallon of milk. In fact, Americans went from drinking 28.6 gallons per year in 1970 to just 20.9 gallons by 2010. But 30 years later, cognitive scientists are still studying why you can picture it perfectly. A celebrity, a glass, a thin white line above the upper lip. The concept, created by art director Bernie Hogya and copywriter Jennifer Gold, became an obsession for photographer Annie Leibovitz. Over 350 famous faces sat for that photograph between 1995 and 2014. Naomi Campbell, Dennis Rodman, Kermit the Frog, Tony Bennett, Britney Spears, The Simpsons. It became the most parodied advertisement of the late 20th century, even more than Michael Bay's iconic 1993 Got Milk commercial, where a history buff couldn't answer Aaron Burr with a mouthful of peanut butter. And it coincided with the steepest, longest decline in American milk consumption ever recorded. That contradiction is the heart of a question cognitive scientists are still picking at. The campaign failed at its stated job. It did not get people to drink more milk, but it succeeded at something the dairy industry never paid for and probably never wanted. It carved a permanent shape into the visual memory of an entire generation. Show the image to almost any American born before 2005 and something fires. Recognition. A faint smile, a pull toward a specific year, a specific magazine rack, a specific feeling that has nothing to do with thirst. What was actually happening in those brains? Why did a white smudge on a celebrity's face create a stronger neurological imprint than the slogan, the product, or even the celebrity themselves? The answer involves 4 separate quirks of human perception working in unison, and a photographer who, almost certainly by accident, stumbled onto one of the strangest exploits in the history of advertising. The human brain dedicates more processing power to faces than to almost any other category of visual information. There is an entire region of the temporal lobe, the fusiform face area, that does nothing but recognize and analyze faces. It is fast, automatic, and almost impossible to override. You cannot choose not to notice a face. By the time you've consciously registered that a person is in the room, your brain has already mapped their features, estimated their age, guessed their mood, and filed them as familiar or unfamiliar. This system has one job above all others. It is looking for things that are wrong: asymmetry, injury, illness, a foreign object, a stranger's expression that doesn't match the situation. Evolutionary biologists believe this hypervigilance kept early humans alive. A face with something off about it was a face worth watching. And the milk mustache exploits this system perfectly. A clean, recognizable celebrity face, photographed in high resolution, with one specific anomaly placed exactly where the brain is most sensitive to it. The philtrum, the skin between the nose and the upper lip. That small patch of skin is one of the most monitored regions on the human face. It's where we look for fluid, for irritation, for the first signs that something is wrong with someone we love. When the brain sees a clean celebrity face with a foreign substance smeared across the philtrum, it registers a violation, a mismatch. The technical term is expectancy violation, coined by psychologist Judy Burgoon, and it's one of the most reliable attention-grabbing tools in the entire visual system. The brain locks on. It cannot help it. But here is where the trick gets clever. Most expectancy violations are unpleasant. A face with blood on it, a face with a wound, a face that's been altered in a way that signals danger. The milk mustache triggers the same locking-on response, but the violation is benign. The substance is white. It is recognizable. It is associated with infancy, with feeding, with safety. So the brain notices, locks on, and then immediately relaxes, because whatever this is, it isn't a threat. The amygdala, which processes emotional responses to faces, registers comfort rather than alarm. That single neurological move, from alarm to relief in under half a second, is what makes the image so satisfying to look at. It scratches an itch the viewer didn't know they had. There is a reason the milk mustache only works on adults. Photograph a 5-year-old with milk on their lip and the image is unremarkable. Cute, maybe. Forgettable, certainly. Children have milk on their faces constantly. It's expected. It's normal. The brain registers it the way it registers a child with a crumb on their shirt. Barely at all. Put the exact same smear on Harrison Ford and something entirely different happens. The phenomenon is called age incongruence, and it's one of the strangest tools in visual psychology. The human brain stores enormous amounts of information about which behaviours and appearances belong to which life stages. A bib belongs on a baby. A pacifier belongs in an infant's mouth. Milk on the upper lip belongs to a child who is still learning how to drink from a glass. When any of those markers appear on an adult, the brain experiences a quiet, almost unconscious double-take. It does not have a category for what it is seeing, so it improvises. The improvisation almost always lands in the same emotional territory: warmth, affection, a protective softening. Adults with childlike markers trigger what psychologists call the Kindchen schema response, a German term coined by ethologist Konrad Lorenz to describe the cluster of features that make humans want to nurture babies. Big eyes, round cheeks, small noses, a vulnerable mouth. The milk mustache, by placing a childhood signifier on an adult face, partially activates this response. The viewer does not see Tyra Banks. The viewer sees Tyra Banks with a flash of childhood layered over her, and for a fraction of a second, the brain treats her with the gentleness it would extend to a 4-year-old. This is the move that makes the campaign so quietly subversive. Celebrities, by definition, are intimidating. They are taller, richer, more beautiful, more confident than the people looking at them. They are designed to be admired from a distance. The milk mustache collapses that distance. It takes someone unreachable and gives them, for one frame, the smallest possible vulnerability, a thing on their face they don't seem to know about. The viewer becomes the one who notices. The viewer becomes briefly the adult in the room. That power inversion is rare in advertising. Most celebrity endorsements work by elevating the product to the celebrity's level. The milk mustache works in the opposite direction. It lowers the celebrity to the viewer's level, and the viewer feels closer to them for it. Whether they ever drink milk again is almost beside the point. The relationship has already changed. There is a specific kind of intimacy that exists only between a person and someone they have never met. Psychologists call it parasocial, a term coined by researchers Donald Horton and Richard Wall in the 1950s. It's the feeling that you know a celebrity, that you understand them, that you would get along, that some part of their public personality is genuinely meant for you. Parasocial bonds are not delusions. They are real neurological events. The brain treats repeated exposure to a face on a screen the same way it treats repeated exposure to a face at a workplace. After enough hours, that face becomes familiar. After enough familiarity, the brain extends trust. The Milk Mustache campaign understood this mechanism better than almost any campaign before it. It did not use celebrities the way most ads use celebrities. It did not pose them in glamour shots. It did not surround them with luxury cars or beach sunsets or carefully styled product placement. It put them against a plain background in their own clothes with a smear of milk on their face. The visual grammar was the visual grammar of a candid moment, a photograph someone might have taken at a kitchen table. This created an effect that cognitive scientists have been studying for decades. When a celebrity is photographed in a state of relaxed imperfection, the parasocial bond intensifies. The viewer feels they are seeing something private, something the celebrity did not quite mean to share. The Milk Mustache, with its faintly absurd, slightly embarrassing quality, looked exactly like a moment the celebrity hadn't noticed yet. as if the photographer had caught them between sips, as if the viewer, by seeing the photograph, was being let in on a small secret. That sense of shared secrecy is one of the most powerful tools in human social bonding. It's the same mechanism that turns acquaintances into friends, the moment when one person tells another something they wouldn't tell just anyone. The milk mustache faked that moment. It manufactured a private gesture and made it public on a magazine cover. And the brains of millions of readers, scanning the newsstand, registered each new celebrity as someone they were now in on a small joke with, someone they recognized differently than they recognized other public figures. This is also why the campaign worked even on viewers who actively disliked the celebrity in the photograph. Parasocial trust does not require affection. It only requires familiarity. A reader who couldn't stand Dennis Rodman still saw the same milk mustache as everyone else, still processed the same vulnerability, still received the same neurological signal that this person had been caught in a candid moment. The image bypassed taste entirely. It worked on the substrate beneath taste, on the part of the brain that decides who counts as a known human being. There is a principle in cognitive psychology called the mere exposure effect, discovered by a researcher named Robert Zajonc in the 1960s. The finding is simple and a little uncomfortable. Human beings prefer things they have seen before, even when they cannot remember seeing them. A face flashed for a fraction of a second, too quickly to consciously register, will still be rated as more trustworthy and more attractive when shown again later. The brain is keeping score of what it has encountered, and that score is shaping preference long before opinion ever gets involved. The Milk Mustache campaign ran for 19 years. 19 years of magazine covers, 19 years of bus stop posters, 19 years of celebrity faces, all photographed in the same pose, all carrying the same small white mark above the upper lip. By the late 90s, the average American adult was encountering some version of the image multiple times per week. Most of those encounters were peripheral: a glance at a checkout aisle, a flash of a billboard from a car window, a magazine left open on a coffee table. The brain wasn't studying any of these, it was simply absorbing them. Each absorption added another small unit of familiarity. The image was not persuading, it was accumulating. By the time a viewer consciously decided what they thought about milk, or celebrities, or advertising in general, the mere exposure effect had already done its work. The image felt safe. It felt warm. It felt like something the viewer had a relationship with, even though they had never made any conscious decision to form one. This is the slow trick beneath the fast ones. The expectancy violation grabs attention in half a second. The Kinchenschema response softens the viewer in another half second. The parasocial recognition opens a small door to intimacy. But the mere exposure effect is what made the campaign permanent. It is the reason that adults who were children during the 1990s, who have not seen the original ads in 20 years, who could not name 3 of the celebrities photographed, can still summon the image instantly when prompted. The campaign was not stored in memory the way most ads are stored. It was stored in the substrate of recognition itself. And here is the part that genuinely unsettles the cognitive scientists who study this kind of thing. The image is now self-replicating. Parodies of the milk mustache continue to appear in films, in cartoons, on social media, on greeting cards. Each parody is itself a new exposure. Each new exposure strengthens the original imprint. The campaign technically ended in 2014, but the image has not stopped circulating. It has become its own preservation mechanism, a piece of visual language that no longer requires a budget to maintain itself, because the brains of an entire generation are now doing the work for free. Annie Leibovitz, the photographer who shot most of the campaign, has said in interviews that the milk mustache was never meant to be a psychological weapon. It was meant to be funny, a small, absurd gesture that gave each celebrity something to do with their face. There is no evidence that anyone involved, Not the ad agency, not the photographers, not the dairy industry executives writing the checks, fully understood what they had stumbled into. They were not trying to exploit the fusiform face area. They were not trying to trigger the Kenshin-Shima response. They were trying to sell milk, and they failed. But the image kept working anyway. It kept working because the human brain does not need to know it is being engaged in order to be engaged. The four mechanisms, expectancy violation, age incongruence, parasocial intimacy, and mere exposure, fire automatically. They do not require belief. They do not require attention. They do not require that the viewer like the ad, agree with the ad, or even consciously notice the ad. They simply fire, and the image gets a little more permanent each time they do. This is the strange truth at the center of the milk mustache. The campaign was not a success in the way the dairy industry wanted it to be. Milk consumption kept falling. Lactose intolerance kept being acknowledged. Plant-based alternatives kept gaining ground. By every commercial metric, the campaign failed. But by an older, deeper metric, the metric of whether an image can carve itself into the shared memory of a generation, it succeeded so completely that we are still talking about it, still parodying it, still recognizing it instantly 30 years later. What the milk mustache reveals is not really about milk, or about advertising, or about celebrity. It is about how easily the human brain can be shaped by something it never agreed to engage with. We like to think of ourselves as rational consumers who make decisions based on what we want and what we believe. The milk mustache is a quiet rebuttal to that idea. It is proof that an image can move through us, settle into the architecture of our memory, and stay there for decades. Not because we chose to remember it, but because our brains were never designed to refuse. The next time you see one of those old ads, and you will eventually, because the image will not let itself be forgotten, pay attention to what happens in the first half second. Notice the lock-on. Notice the small smile. Notice the warmth that has nothing to do with milk. That's not nostalgia. That is your brain executing a sequence of operations it was never asked to consent to. The mustache, it turns out, knew you better than you knew it.